When I play Fast Play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, I have a chance to win a progressive jackpot that starts at $40,000 and grows from there. So yeah, I'm ready to
play ball!
Make the right call this season and play Fast Play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery.
This episode is presented by Motorsports Incorporated. All seasons for work and play. Visit motorsportsinc.com for more.
Good morning, Baltimore. It is Monday, May 18th, and thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the Early Birds podcast. I'm your host, Matt Weyrich, and obviously not alongside Sam Cohn or Josh Tolentino. Here running solo today after those two guys were out at the Preakness Stakes, where Napoleon Solo won the 151st edition of the race being held over at Laurel Park. Some great coverage coming from both Sam and Josh over there, as well as the entire army the Baltimore Sun sent out to the racetrack. So certainly go over to baltimoresun.com and check out all of their coverage. Some great stuff, as I said, over there. But got some fun stuff for you guys today. John Ourand from Puck News came and stopped by and stopped for a chat, which started as an interview of me interviewing him and turned into a bit of an interview of him asking me questions about the state of the Orioles. We got into the state of the Orioles this year, but also some of the sports business stuff surrounding the team, MASN's future, and things like that. So stay tuned for that. Just obviously not much going on here with the Ravens. We had our schedule release episode earlier this past week, so be sure to go check that out if you haven't already. Orioles went to DC this weekend and lost 2 of 3, going down 3-2 in the first game. A good start from Shane Baz there, but offense wasn't able to come through. Second game, a big bullpen implosion. Keegan Aiken and Andrew Kittredge ending up on the wrong side of a big rally for the Nationals in what was a lopsided 13-3 final. And then on Sunday, the offense for the Orioles finally breaks out. They go out and win 7-3 behind a big day from Gunnar Henderson, 4 hits. Bullpen stitching it together after Brandon Young was pulled after only 3 2/3. So not the way the Orioles were hoping the series would go. They drop down to 5 games under 500 after the series, having matched their season low of 6 on Saturday, and they'll look to try to climb their way back up the standings in Tampa Bay, where they're going to be playing the Rays for 3 games here. I'll be down there this week, so our next episode on Thursday, we'll have a full recap of that series, which will have Trevor Rogers, Kyle Bradish, and Shane Baz going for the Orioles, including Baz facing his former team. So a lot to look forward to there on our next episode. But without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to our interview here, and I'll catch you all on the other side. And welcome back in, as I am super excited to bring on here to Early Birds John Ourand, the Puck News sports media reporter, longtime journalist with the Sports Business Journal, who is a Washington native and unfortunate tortured Orioles fan his entire life. John, really appreciate you coming on.
We had our time in the early '80s and in the mid '90s. I'm not as tortured as say my son is, who I unfortunately raised to be an Orioles fan. He was born in 1999, and I think the first 12 years of his life were under 500. Poor kid. I felt so bad about it. And then the Nats win in 2019, and he was happy enough. He's from DC, but it wasn't his team. I messed up fatherhood, Matt.
You taught him humility, and that's one of the most important things a father can hand down to his son. So don't worry, you're doing the right thing there. But John, you have an intricate knowledge of this team. You also were the reporter who broke the news in 2024. David Rubenstein was purchasing this team, taking on the ownership stake there. And I want to dive into all that. But first, let's just start with the season at hand here. As from your perspective with these Orioles, how do you kind of just feel like about how the season has gone so far in the direction they're headed on the baseball field?
This has been a supremely frustrating season because it was a couple of years ago. When did we win over? Sorry, I'm going to use we because they're a lifelong thing. But when did the Orioles win over 100 games?
It's 2023.
2023. That was 3 years ago, and we put up with 4 straight 120 loss seasons in order to get, one 100 win season. And I'm looking at these guys and we're like, we're playing 500 ball. And speaking, I'm speaking now as a fan as opposed to a reporter that covers this stuff. Going through those terrible seasons in the late teens and the early 20s, it means when things don't go as well, you have a lot less patience. I find that I have a lot less patience with watching what's happening on the field, and it's just been frustrating. And analytics seems to be doing well, but it doesn't seem to be doing well for the Orioles. It seems to be doing well in all of baseball. It doesn't seem to be doing well for the Orioles. And we don't get clutch hits. And we were talking that before I came on. We're taping this on Sunday, right after I was at Nats Park for the Saturday game. We lost by 10 runs to a very mediocre Nationals team, and the headline that I saw on MLB.com is, "Oh, don't worry, the Orioles are making hard contact." An encouraging sign is that the batters are hitting the ball hard, and I'm as a guy that grew up in the 70s and 80s, just win games. I don't care how hard you hit it. Like, you can bunt people over and win games. So it's this season is a frustrating season, and it's made all the more frustrating because we were told, back, like, just put up with these terrible losses, put up with this tanking because the payoff is going to be a decade of great baseball. And we got one or maybe 2 seasons we got 1 season of great baseball. We got 2 seasons of pretty good baseball. And now this is it. And like that's not worth what we put up with at the end of the decade, man.
Yeah, as we are recording this here today, it is the 1-year anniversary of Brandon Hyde being fired by the Orioles. And obviously the way the 2025 season went, it was pretty much a lost cause from that point on, even though they did finish 1 game over 500 under Tony Mansolino. But they bring in Craig Albernaz to try to be a new voice for this team. And so far, we're seeing a lot of the same results, and maybe even on the defensive side, certainly some sloppier results. This team, it does feel like they are close at times. There certainly has, from my perspective, been a lot of games where you felt like they were just one swing away. They put themselves in a position to win and made a mistake that cost them. But ultimately, self-induced mistakes and an offense that isn't able to come through in the clutch is not exactly a winning formula. And I think, as you said, Orioles fans expect this team to be a juggernaut. I mean, that's what as my colleague Jacob Calvin-Meyer likes to call it, the social contract that was signed between Orioles fans and this organization was put up with the losing, and we are going to come out on the other side a sustainable winner. And they still are making a lot of moves that are geared at aimed at winning for the long term, but so far they're not winning in the short term. And it's been extremely frustrating. I know for fans, it's been extremely frustrating for players as well. It's been some very quiet clubhouses post game over the last few weeks here, as they try to grapple with why they aren't able to string together wins. But yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, and I think it's extremely valid that to expect more of this team and to question, are they, with all the underlying analytics and everything that they're following, are they really putting themselves on the best path to win, even though we're not seeing it necessarily on the field?
Hey, Matt, I have a quick question for you as the beat writer here. As a fan, I like Brandon Hyde. I was rooting for him. I wanted him to do well. How is Albernaz different it's a different voice? How is a voice different? Because as a fan, it seems very similar. He seems to have a lot of patience with a lot of players that are batting under 200 that I wouldn't have the same kind of patience with.
Well, I think there's several differences. The major one being that Albernaz is a communicator, an expert communicator. I think Brandon Hyde, to his credit, I think he was a good baseball mind and somebody who fit where the Orioles were hoping to go, and I think ultimately was made a bit of a scapegoat with how he was fired last year. But the difference here with Albernaz is he is a guy who is going up to players individually and making very clear his expectations for them. And that's something that players have talked a lot about, is he's extremely honest, and maybe even to a point where he'll rub some guys the wrong way, because he is going to be, say, like, I want you to do this. You're not doing it. You're falling short of my expectations. He's not going to beat around the bush with things like that. And, guys like Colton Cowser, who is off to a dreadful start, he's been riding the bench because Leody Taveras has been playing over him. Now, you look at like a guy like Kobe Mayo, who has been playing a lot despite not hitting very well. It's not like they have a lot of other options at this point of guys on the roster who's able to play over him. So I think there is a bit of, he's got to use the guys that he has. But we are seeing, I think, that if you go out there and you string a couple of games together and play well, you're going to play more. And guys who are not playing well aren't. To an extent, your Gunnar Hendersons and Pete Alonsos of the world are going to play every day no matter what. But at the same time, for the rest of this roster, I think there is an element of you've got to earn your stripes with this new coaching staff, whereas before there was a little bit of, guys who veterans, kind of get the benefit of the doubt, and we'll see through their struggles no matter what.
I mean, so we're now like in mid-May. Like, is he in danger of losing the clubhouse? What's the clubhouse like? Because I can tell you, my text chains are very negative about this team.
Yeah, no, I think he has the clubhouse. Honestly, I think a lot of guys really like playing for him. They have adopted this day one mentality, is the word that keeps getting thrown around, of trying to turn the page every day and not letting previous results, carry over from the day before. But I do think guys like playing for him. He's younger. This is a younger clubhouse. I think he can kind of identify with some of the younger guys a little bit more. He's a gritty guy who, spent his entire playing career in the minor leagues as an undersized catcher. So, he certainly has a flair that I think resonates well with this clubhouse. But I think this clubhouse also last year was humbled in a lot of ways, and this group needs its confidence built back up. And the only way that really is going to happen at the end of the day is by playing better on the field. So, it's really early still. I think he's developing relationships with a lot of guys that, like guys like Jordan Westberg haven't even been around the team because he's been hurt all year. And Albernaz probably doesn't have the best relationship with guys like that. So it's really just about building right now. And the wins still count as much as they do in May as they do in September. But at the same time, I think it's very early to say that he's lost the clubhouse.
I cover off the field stuff, so this is especially fun for me to talk on the field. So and I don't mean to take over the pod, but
I love it.
The things that really interest me right now is, the Orioles tried to get in the offseason Kyle Schwarber, who I think just hit his 50th home run. What I think he actually is up to 20 now, right?
20, yeah.
And we ended up with Pete Alonso, who's batting about 210, has, I think, 6 home runs. At what point should fans press the panic button of, oh my God, we got an overpaid aging star to come in?
I think Alonso has shown some stretches here. I mean, he had an 8-game hitting streak that was going on about a week ago and hit a couple of home runs there in Miami. I think he looked pretty good. His defense at first base has been phenomenal. To this point, not something that
I would call it a little bit above average. Man. Phenomenal, really?
I mean, by a lot of metrics, he's a Gold Glove finalist right now. I mean,
you're
really
kidding me? Oh, wow.
I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah, like it really has been that good. Now, I think he does have a little bit of like diving when he wouldn't. A better first baseman might not necessarily need to dive and make the play look cleaner. There's been a bit of an element of that to his game, but he has been certainly a lot better than we were expecting from him at first base. And offensively, I think the home runs will come. I mean, he hits his 30 every year. Sometimes he hits 30 home runs and has a 220 batting average, and that's kind of what you're going to get from Pete Alonso. But at the same time, he does still draw his walks. I think there is still a decent floor for the OBP by the end of the year. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest of starts for Alonso, and he has thrown himself into a leadership role that he did not have in New York, and maybe is putting a little bit of pressure on himself to carry this team. But that is a persistent theme across this lineup right now. Gunnar Henderson has certainly been prone to it. Jordan Westberg was last year. Colton Cowser has talked about it before. So these guys are putting kind of the weight of the world on their shoulders a little bit. And maybe that is impacting their swing decisions at the plate and kind of a reason for all the strikeouts that we've seen from this offense. So, yeah, I get understanding, like looking at Alonso and saying we expected more right off the bat. I think that is very fair. But I do think at the end of the year he's going to get his.
You know what I liked about your answer is I think you weren't here with the Buck Showalter years, but
No.
Buck Showalter used to talk about sort of the back of the baseball card, and he's like, Alonso 30 home runs. By September he'll have those 30 home runs. We don't know exactly how they're going to come, but eventually they're going to come, and we're not necessarily worried. Which is sounds to me like what you were just saying.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to have a month where he hits 10. I mean, he'll just pop off and really take over for a month probably. I think the same can be said for Gunnar, who is kind of historically a slow starter. His best month by OPS in his career is June, followed by July. So as that warm air kind of heats up and everything, Gunnar really gets going. So maybe that's going to be the case again this year. He's certainly searching.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it was. I don't know if it was you or Jacob that put that tweet out on Saturday that showed the different the splits of. But everything I've been reading and hearing about Gunnar is like he's switched his swing. He's trying to go much more for power now. Is that accurate? Is that what the root of the problem is? Is that he's trying to get too many home runs and not as much of a slash hitter as the Gunnar that I envisioned when he first came up?
I don't know that it's necessarily he's chasing power, but he is hunting his pitch a little bit too aggressively. I think it's more about the approach than the mechanics right now. And the thing about Gunnar in the way his swing kind of works is when he commits to a pitch, he's really out in front with the bat, and he's not really able to adjust when he sees the off speed coming last minute and has to try and get his bat down. It's a little bit harder for him. He has to be able to stay back a little bit longer before making his decision in order to get that maximum power to make the right kind of contact. And for Gunnar, when he's chasing these pitches, trying to hit everything and getting behind in a lot of 0-2 counts, it's really just putting him in a position that is not going to be successful for him from pitch to pitch. So until he, his chase rate is up, he's swinging and missing at more pitches than he ever has in his career. So I think that really boils down to decision making at the plate and maybe, like I said, pressing and trying to hit every ball out for a home run, not just because he's just hunting power in his swing necessarily, but more because the Orioles are down every single game and he's trying to get them back in it. So I think it's more of a circumstantial, situational kind of domino effect there, as opposed to a mechanical, I need to swing for the fences, so let's adjust my swing to create greater launch angle, things like that. Because he's got natural power,
That is the theme of the season, it seems. Get down early, battle back, maybe you win, maybe you don't win, and we'll see.
The offense.
One final thing, and then we'll talk about like the business behind it, which is why I'm on here. But this is kind of like the business. You're a beat writer for the Orioles, and back in the day, the beat writers would sit in the press box and they would they would talk about the game on the field and who had a big hit. Like, you don't do you're so much more into the strategy, you're so much more into the stories, and you sort of have to be because of the nature of your job. The nature of all of media has changed, but especially, I mean, you can almost call up an AI chatbot and say, like, tell me what happened in the game. I'll be like, oh, well, the Orioles on Saturday cut it to 2. And then the Nationals scored, what was it, in the 7th inning, 8 runs or whatever. And they could have, can talk about that. But you have to do it a lot more differently. So 2 questions for you. One is the new press box at Camden Yards. You gave up to the Truist Club. I spent game 2 in the Truist Club. It's beautiful. It's like the press had the best seats in the house for so long. How do you like the move over? Has it been a change at all?
The press box is certainly nicer. We are now shifted a little bit down the third base line, so the view is not straight up the field, which I used to be very good about judging balls and strikes, and now because we're looking at the plate from an angle, it's a lot tougher. You can only really see up and down. And we also have this overhang that goes over the field, so some high like pop-ups and things like that, I lose the ball. and have to wait for it to come down. So it's definitely the view and the baseball experience is a bit of a downgrade, but it is air conditioned for the first time. It used to just be open air, and man, during the summers, like it got hot.
Baltimore in August,
in
that's great. Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. And Baltimore in March too was freezing, and you would be bundled up. So you had to really weather the elements with the fans there for a while. So now we have glass and stuff that gets put up. It's nice, but I do. From a wanting to do my job to the best ability standpoint, I do think it is a bit of a downgrade just because we lost that view, which was also, we're still very low to the field, which there's a lot of like Nationals Park. You're in freaking Antarctica watching the game.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
you're so far
they
up.
look like
So
ants
it's at least
running
down
around.
low. No, I know, literally. It is cool to be able to see the field that way.
I used to publicly kill Bob Carpenter, who was the MASN play-by-play voice, because he would be like, "Oh, it's a pop fly to short center. It's a home run." And then then once I was in his booth and I saw how hard it is to call those games from that high up. It's crazy.
It is insane. Highest press box.
But in terms of like, so you were at the game. You did the game on Saturday. The Orioles lost by 10 runs to the Nationals. How do you approach that for the website / the paper? Like you're not. Are you writing a traditional gamer, or are you kind of like waiting to talk to people to get a real theme story out there? Like, what's your approach as a beat writer to this game?
Yeah, we usually, the way it kind of goes for us is we write a game recap of every game. The Sun is still the paper of record in Baltimore, so we have a game recap as we have for every Orioles game in the entire existence of the franchise. But also we've started doing kind of a sidebar type story after each game. Usually we do 3 takeaways, which kind of allows us to break off from the game itself, especially in baseball when there's 162 and one single game doesn't really have a large impact on the season as a whole, but there are trends that emerge in the game, and we want to be able to talk about those kinds of things. So we'll do 3 takeaways, unless there's one specific sidebar type story that jumps out from the game that really makes sense of jumping on, whether it be an injury or a crucial play that deserves being broken down more, something like that. We'll kind of break off from that, and then we also do what's called a morning story every morning, where we or that's what we can kind of work on throughout the week, a feature or an analysis or a breakdown, something like that. So usually you're writing 3 stories a day, depending on if there's breaking news, things like that before the game. It could be more. I think I wrote 5 on Saturday, so it was definitely a busy one. But that's certainly we've been trying to adapting, because we understand that the way people can pull up a box score on the app and see what happened in the game. It's not like pulling out the newspaper and trying to figure out what happened in the game like it used to be 20 years ago. But certainly I think there are still a big appetite for fans of wanting to know what they just watched after a game, wanting to see what my perspective was of what they just saw, and if there's any major takeaways they might have missed.
Final question for you on this whole thing, but so you hear obviously from fans. You heard from me. There's a lot of frustration. People are fed up, and it hasn't been the start that people want. Your reporting from the team is like, you just be patient, guys. Like we're working through this. We're going to be okay in the end. How do you balance those two?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly gotten to a point where you have to ask a lot of tough questions. And, I think there is a line to draw between putting, the team saying, like, we believe this is going to turn around, and also parroting a line that is being repeated over and over again that might not necessarily be true. And it's really a balancing act of trying to find the truth in what they talk about. Talk about the hard hit balls that they had over the weekend. I do think there is some truth to that, in that is a sign that they probably deserve some better luck than they had in those 2 games. But when you start to look at it from a full season standpoint and you're still not seeing those kinds of results, okay, then it's time to maybe ask the questions. And I asked Craig Albernaz myself on Saturday, is this, should the Orioles abandon, or not abandon, but move away from their searching for hard contact approach and try to make more light contact, poking the ball into the outfield? And he laughed at that notion, saying that is just not the way that modern day baseball teams approach the game. And to an extent, he's right. I mean, that is just not the way that these front offices and modern day coaching staffs view hitting as a philosophy these days. And, a team like the Rays that has the lowest average exit velocity in baseball and is in first place in the American League East, fans are pointing to that and saying, like, well, how come they can do it? And I think that's a valid question. But also it is certainly representative of where baseball is in the year 2026.
Next time you're in the clubhouse, ask him about the Baltimore chop and whether he thinks that or the bloop single that brings in runners. Like talking about hard hit balls. If you had talked to me a week ago after taking 2 or 3 from the Yankees, I probably would have been a lot more positive. But I just sat through losing by 10 runs to a mediocre team, and we're talking about hard hit balls. It makes me want to scream, Matt.
I understand. No, I understand, and it's frustrating. Frustrating is the word that got tossed around by coaches, by players, by fans. It is certainly just not where anyone expects this team to be at this point in the year. And yet, with the state of the American League, I mean, 1 5-game winning streak, and they're in playoff position.
True.
So it is, certainly a lot of runway left for them to turn them around. It's just, do you see the vision in the kind
Did you see the
playing?
clip? Did I see this from you, Jackson Holliday, with a game-winning home run in AAA yesterday?
Oh, I did not post that. I didn't even know if he did that.
Actually, I don't know if they won. I don't know if Norfolk won the game, but he lit off the 9th inning with a home run to give him the lead. So,
well, he had been 0 for 4 before that. I had checked right before, so he has been struggling on rehab mightily.
Once again, positives, negatives. It's all there. Yes. So 100%. He's batting 200, but he won the game. Yeah.
There you go. I think they hit like 7 home runs in that game, so that was one of them apparently. John, I really appreciate you turning this into an interview of me. This has been fun. I'd have a couple questions for you, though, if you don't mind. Love to talk some business here. And let's talk about this ownership group and kind of your impressions of them so far. From the last 2 years, there's been a big increase in spending, and it hasn't necessarily resulted in a ton of positive effects on the field. I mean, there was some deals for guys like Charlie Morton that didn't work out, and now we're seeing Chris Bassett struggling here, and Pete Alonso not off to the greatest start. But the payroll has taken a dramatic increase to be from really the bottom of the league to about league average. How do you feel like Rubenstein and his group have impacted the Orioles' chances of winning?
The one thing, especially after coming off those years with Angelos and the Angelos era, where it was when the Orioles would make a big purchase for like an Albert Bell or God, Glenn Davis was that wasn't going way back. Chris Davis, I guess they redid. Glenn Davis was before the Angelos family, and if they hit, it was great, and if it missed, they were out. And I think what we have now with Rubenstein and his ownership group is they're competitive, they want to win, but they still want to make money, and so I think that the way that I see that ownership group is that they're willing to spend to bring players in because they feel like they need a really competitive team in order to fill the ballpark. And I think where you're going to really try to see them make money is in other areas of the ballpark. I'm really curious to see what happens to MASN. It's a declining asset. It still is an asset that makes a lot of money for them, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But if you look at the Truist Club, the thing about Camden Yards that has been so unique to Camden Yards since it opened back in the early 90s is that it felt almost egalitarian. The ticket prices stayed low. You could get seats, in the by the dugouts right behind home plate. Compared to other MLB stadiums, very affordable. The get-in price was really affordable, and you didn't have anything. You were there to watch baseball. AT&T Park that everybody loves. They have that Coke slide, and people go. And when my kids were young, and we would go to Nats Park, they had Build-A-Bear, set up and other than like Boog's Barbecue or you went to Camden Yards to watch a game, and what they're trying to do now is, through Truist Club, I'm not sure how Truist Club is faring within Baltimore, whether the public likes it or not. But I can tell you the Truist Club exists in just about every other stadium, and it exists to bring a lot of money into the owners' pockets. And what Rubenstein is doing is he's willing to take that money and reinvest a lot of it into the players. But this is like, he's a private equity guy, right? He's a guy that wants to make money out of this. You're seeing it with added areas for people to hang out by bars and watch games and actually not have seats, which again is happening throughout MLB, but it wasn't happening in Camden Yards. I don't know what's going to go on with the left field, the upper deck in left field. There's been talk, even with Angelo's, of just knocking that down, making that like a patio for people to go and congregate and meet and watch the games. And again,
The Guardians did that, actually.
Pardon me?
The Guardians did that, Cleveland, with their similar spot in the outfield.
And it fits, and it also hits a certain like demo, like Gen Z and millennials. That's how they like to watch games, and in general, and of course I hate to paint with a broad brush, but that's the view of this by a lot of these ownership groups. So you're going to see a lot of. I don't want to call them upgrades, because Camden Yards was great for coming and watching games and focusing on baseball. But you're going to see a lot of changes within Camden Yards that's going, hopefully going to bring bigger attendance, hopefully going to bring a more rabid sort of fan base. The people standing by the bar, they're probably not watching every single pitch, but they're getting liquored up, and they're gonna cheer loudly when the time comes to cheer loudly. You would expect. And so, as an ownership group, as a fan for the ownership group, it's funny because we just spent the first 20 minutes talking about my frustrations with the Orioles. I will tell you, how great is it to be frustrated with the team? How great was it that I thought they were going to be better than they were, as opposed to always hoping that this plucky team is going to, possibly pull an upset. So I think that he has done a really good job in talking to the fan base about trying to improve the play on the field, improve the makeup of the team, and use the Basayo. Signing Basayo was that was a big deal to me. It's like, okay, we're committed to get this done. So I would give the ownership group, coming from what they had and working with what they've had to work with, a pretty good grade. It's an incomplete grade right now, but I would give them a pretty good grade. So I think that if I am an Orioles fan, but I think if you're from Baltimore and you're an Orioles fan, you should be pretty happy with the ownership group right now.
You've written a lot about the private equity influx of billionaires into sports ownership in general. What do you feel like, not just for the Orioles, but in sports beyond, what are the ripple effects of those kinds of billionaires with that kind of background making the calls on how these sports franchises are operated?
It's funny. So, like, every time I describe Rubenstein as private equity, I get pushback, because he didn't buy this in a private equity capacity. He bought it as a local guy. I think he grew up like me in the DC area as an Orioles fan, and he wants the team to win. So this isn't necessarily a private equity move for him. I think that the leagues have been really smart about this, because there's so much money in private equity, and there are so few slots in sports to where you can buy ownership stakes. And I had Jason Stein, who's works for SE Holdings, a big private equity guy, and I was like, if you were to put your money in the S&P 500, just sit back, you'd probably make as much as if you take a 5% stake and have no say in the direction of the club, I would think. And he was like, that wouldn't be nearly as much fun. Like, you're part of an exclusive club, and the leagues are not allowing private equity to buy 100% of the team. It's like, okay, give us some money and then we can like help to make some of the changes that I talked about earlier, like with Camden Yards, or give us some money and we can help make changes on the field. And so this has done this has been a boom for the rich guys, the billionaire owners of the NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, and because it's flooded the market with money. I broke the story and I forget what did Rubenstein buy the Orioles for? It was like a shockingly low number.
Was 1.725 billion.
1.725 for a Major League Baseball team, and you're watching the Dodgers get valued at $10 billion, and one thing, that value, I don't know what the value is now, but I would bet you that it is increased by at least $1 billion, if not more, because it's increased from the time that he's bought it just over 2 years ago to now. Across all these sports, the values of franchises have increased by twofold or so. I'm throwing that number out there, but they've increased by a lot. So seeing all this private equity is increasing the values of the teams. They're making the assets more worthwhile. The challenge, the story that I'm going to be most interested in is 5 to 10 years from now, Matt. Like private equity, when they invest, they want their reason is to make money. They want to make money, and so how are they able to do that? And if they ultimately decide to cash out, what is that going to look like, and what is that going to do to the teams? That's a story that's going to be told in 5 to 10 years. But as for right now, the move to bring in private equity, private equity is kind of a bad word in business. I mean, we work in journalism. Private equity buying publishers is generally leads to layoffs and shrinking, and then selling the parts. They're not in the position to do that in any sport because the stakes that they're taking are very small. So now it is like an influx of cash where they want to see they want to see a return on that, and we'll see if we'll see what happens when they decide to get out. When they decide to get out, or if the guy running the private equity fund happens to be a sports fan and he leaves and is replaced by somebody who's not a sports fan, or so who knows how that would look, or what that'll look. But for teams like the Orioles, I think it's been it's led to more money being put into the market, and I think that's generally a pretty good thing for a smaller market club like the O's.
Sure, and it does. Just the overall trend of it across sports makes me wonder if Rubenstein, being the kind of guy who bought his hometown team, like Steve Cohen did with the Mets, of saying all I care about is winning a championship. Rubenstein's touted the line of having no financial limit about this team, and certainly we've seen big increases for them. But overall, is the days of a team of a billionaire buying a sports team as a vanity project over? It does feel like we are certainly trending that way, in the expectation of fans that owners are going to do everything they can to win. Having a profit be damned, really might be behind us at this point, or at least are few and far between. So it's a concerning thing for me, just of my perspective on it, of where sports are headed, that money is driving all of these conversations, and it's ultimately, I think, having trickle-down effects onto the field and the type of baseball that is played. And we're seeing it with the Washington Nationals, for example, of a team that is now trying to operate like the Tampa Bay Rays, with low payrolls, despite the fact that they're in a top 8 media market in Major League Baseball and across the country. So, I think we're seeing more and more of that across sports, particularly with baseball and the looming lockout and everything like that, and the state of the no salary cap and everything. But for Orioles fans, I think they can take some solace here that Rubenstein, while still wanting to make a profit, and he's actually told me that as much in an interview during spring training in 2025, But at the same time, I think the no financial limit thing does have some merit, and we've seen him take this team to levels of spending that it's never seen before, and certainly he deserves some credit for that.
Two things, not just Rubenstein, but Michael Arangetti, who is sort of the heir apparent for if and when Rubenstein decides to step aside. No time soon, but he's somebody who is he didn't grow up as a fan of the Orioles, but he is a competitive guy and he wants to win. And so, and what you voiced is the big fear of PE is that if you want to make money, you don't necessarily need to win. You need to. If you, in fact, I think the Pittsburgh Pirates, they didn't make the most money in Major League Baseball, but they made a lot of money by putting out a really poor team that had a really low payroll, and they would depend on the Dodgers paying their luxury tax, and they would depend on the media rights fees coming in, and it's a pretty good business if you don't invest in the clubs to actually win.
No, 100%, and that is certainly going to be on the players' union's minds here as they get into discussions with a looming lockout. December 1st is that deadline. I'm curious here, with the lockout in particular, how do you feel like the threat of a work stoppage is affecting the business of baseball right now and affecting the way teams are operating?
That's a good question about the way teams are operating. I think if I were the teams, I would try to be locking some of these players into longer term contracts because, and if I were some of the players, I would sort of wait because once this once the lockout, the work stoppage is figured out, and it's going to be figured out at some point, but once it's figured out, then the MLB is going to have a new media deal come out. Their media deals are up in 2028. All of the teams have been losing money because of the local media situation. The RSNs are sort of in a tailspin now. They used to be the most profitable part of the cable business, and while they're still profitable today, they're not nearly as profitable, and the trend line is heading down. So some of these teams that have been seeing 50, 60, 70 million dollars a year, that's not going to zero, but it's being cut very significantly, and so they once baseball is able to go to market in 2028 with traditional media companies like ESPN and Fox and CBS that understand that want baseball, particularly October baseball, because they think it brings in ratings and it's very sticky. Imagine a cable operator dropping Fox if the Orioles are in the World Series. You would see revolts it would lose Comcast would lose every Baltimore subscriber that they have. I would think, and so the streamers also are coming in. Netflix has a couple of MLB games. Apple has a couple of MLB games. Amazon,
Peacock, yeah,
exactly. And so once they go to market in 2028, they're going to have a lot of bidders for games that really matter, and they're going to make a lot of money. And we saw what happened in the NBA when they did the deals worth $76 billion for the NBA. And it's helped a lot of teams, and you've seen, the salary caps rise and everything along those lines. So if I'm an agent, if I'm a player, I'm going to say, well, let me wait, because once that added money comes in, there's going to be more money for me to get. So it is going to be a push and pull. Everybody I talk to, I'm sure everybody you talk to, Matt, at the end of this season, almost certainly there's going to be a work stoppage. We're going to get through the World Series, and the question is whether the two sides come to an agreement before next spring training or before next opening day. And the big issue is that the owners want a salary cap. The way the Dodgers spend, versus the way that the Pirates spend is not equitable. It's not fair to be a fan of the Minnesota Twins and have no hope for winning a World Series, or maybe hope every 20 years for doing that. So the owners really want to put in a salary cap. The players, particularly the best players, don't want a salary cap at all. And so the key for me is going to be whether the owners start to worry, like they've done a lot of things like adding in the pitch clock and making the game the ABS challenges, making the game a lot more fun for the fans. You're seeing attendance rise. You're seeing TV ratings rise. Do the owners want to mess with that and go to the wall on the salary cap? Or enough of them going to sort of peel away and say, like, let's just get this done. On the other side of the coin, you mentioned like somebody like Colton Cowser. Does he really want to miss like a season's worth of a salary to help Bryce Harper make an extra like $30 million? There's sort of like a rank and file of MLB players. Are they going to stick with the All-Star players? And on one hand, all of them think that they're a couple swings away from being the next Bryce Harper. That's how they got to the major leagues. On the other hand, it's there's actual math. They know, and so where that fissure hits and how much it hits is what's really going to determine who wins at the negotiating table on that.
Yeah, MLB has so much momentum right now with the way that the World Series went. I mean, the Game 7 was awesome. The ratings, it's growing not just here in North America, but internationally as well. The World Baseball Classic was a tremendous success from a viewership perspective. As you say, attendance is up. Teams are making money hand over fist. Everything is going in the right direction. And I think baseball is becoming more culturally a part of social media conversation and things like that, where you're seeing more highlight clips. They pulled back on kind of limiting the amount of their highlights that are being circulated. Like the NBA was really ahead of its time in basically letting fans make mixtapes and highlight reels off of their highlights, as opposed to MLB, which was trying to protect its rights on social media. They've kind of pulled back. They've endorsed guys like John Boy and things like that to really help grow the game from that perspective. And I think it's had a lot of success in that way, all for a work stoppage to put it to a screeching halt and, potentially, undermine all of the success they had, like it did in 1994, when baseball effectively, after canceling its World Series, needed to be saved by steroids, which is a sad state of affairs for where
I would say that
was.
They were saved by Cal Ripken Jr. in his street. But yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
That's fair. I mean, that was a central part of the era. But, with where we are now and all of the big personalities that have broken through in this game, I think there's so much momentum here that baseball can't afford to get in its own way, as it unfortunately so often does. And, you look at Rob Manfred here, as he is in his final contract. He says, as MLB commissioner, there's three things for me that are going to define his legacy, because what you do at the end really is, unfortunately, what ends up defining your legacy as a commissioner. But it's handling this lockout situation and ensuring there's no work stoppage that costs games. It's the media rights deal in 2029 and what kind of path they set themselves on moving forward. And it's whether or not they expand to 32 teams and realign divisions, as has been speculated. And certainly Manfred has feeded that speculation, as once Tampa Bay and Vegas get finalized on their long-term futures, those are certainly where the league is going to turn its attention to next. So those three things, I think, are going to define Rob Manfred's legacy here. So he has done a lot over his career, and the game has changed a lot under his tenure. But being that this is at the end and this work stoppage is perhaps as tense as things ever have been between the league and the players' union, something is going to have to give on either side. And honestly, my guess is as good as yours right now as to which side ultimately ends up, folding under that. So really interested to see where things go. And you talk about the MASN aspect of this for the Orioles in particular. With MASN being one of the dwindling numbers of RSNs across Major League Baseball. I mean, where do you see the Orioles and baseball as a whole going in 2029 and beyond is the what the Nationals and the Guardians and D-backs have done and joining with Major League Baseball and becoming part of MLB TV. Do you feel like that is the future for almost all clubs? I mean, maybe a team like the Dodgers is never going to move away from its TV deal because of how good it is, but a team like the Orioles, could you see them possibly moving on from MASN and kind of joining the fold there with MLB?
Yeah, I think the Orioles are in a good spot actually, because you have you have MASN, you have the Yes Network with the Yankees, NESN with the Red Sox, Marquee with the Cubs. I think I have them all. Braves Vision, I guess, just launched down there. But it's
and
good
Dodgers,
to own.
yeah.
It's good to the Dodgers, of course, like you mentioned. It's good to own your own media rights, and that's what the Orioles have with MASN. And so it's plainly clear that Rob Manfred and baseball want to take back all of these local rights, and they have about half the clubs have gone, like the Nationals, and said we will entrust you with our local rights, and so when Rubenstein goes to talk to MLB, he has MASN. So like you have to work out something. So like hopefully, as an Orioles fan, hopefully Rubenstein can go and get something in order to give back those rights. But I think that a lot of owners and certainly people that work at the league look at the way that the NBA did its media rights deals, and it's and they made so much money off the national deals, and they took away so many like games that used to be on the RSNs, on the regional sports networks, and brought them into the national deals. And they took away almost all exclusivity in terms of the local deals. And they made like I said, $76 billion worth of deals, which for the NBA was a huge deal. Major League Baseball looks at that. Rob Manfred looks at that. And that's what they want to do. The problem is, as you said, with the bigger market clubs like the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Yankees. It's like, well, why we don't want to give up our local rights, and so I think that you can see baseball start as staging it. The Orioles don't have as much hand as the Dodgers or the Red Sox or the Yankees, but they still have a little bit. So I think eventually you're going to see them give their rights back to the league, but. I think this is important too when we talk about this. MASN may go away; it may stay as a local brand. Who knows what's going to happen for Orioles fans who live in Baltimore? Nothing's going to change. Nationals fans who live in DC, they can watch the Nationals on it's no longer on MASN. It's on a new channel that developed that just shows their games on cable, and whatever that channel may be. If you don't have cable, you can subscribe in market to watch the Nationals games, and it might cost a little bit more. It probably will cost. Everything costs a little bit more, so it's going to cost a little bit more to be a fan of these teams. However, on the flip side, you get to see everything. You get to see and it's a lot easier to watch these games as opposed to like if you're traveling and I have to download MASN. No, you just go to MLB.TV and you can see the Nationals games no matter where you are, whether you're traveling or not. So it's for the fans, this really doesn't. This is a story that I love. It's a story that I've been reporting pretty heavily, but it really involves the one percenters. It involves Rob Manfred, it involves Rubenstein, and it doesn't really trickle down to the fans. The fans are going to see the games at some point regardless.
Yeah, and I think, when you have RSNs who are going into the streaming space, I mean, MASN was one of the last ones to finally develop an app and be able to offer streaming options for their fans. There's MLB's platform is clean. It's put together by a much more well-funded service, and the way it works with your phone and things like that is a lot more seamless as opposed to the MASN Plus app, which still has a lot of kinks. I'm not sure how much you've watched on there, but there's still a live button.
MLB.TV subscriber, so I don't have to use the MASN app. But I have friends who do. I hear these complaints nightly.
Yes, you can't move the screen off of the app. Like, you can't go to other apps and still watch the game. You have to be on the MASN Plus app the whole time, which is really annoying. Like, YouTube TV will let you just swipe up and then you can do other things while the video's in the corner. Like, you can't do that on there. The MASN Plus app, when you're watching it, has this live button in the corner that just won't go away. Like, I don't need to see that. I know it's live. I'm watching it. So things like that are things that, if they were to go into MLB's platform, I think it would just be a cleaner experience for the digital fan. But certainly, as you say, this is something that will come down to ownership and the leverage that they have in owning their rights, and ultimately why it would become profitable for them to switch over will be the number one thing. John, really appreciate the time. You've been extremely generous with it. This has been great stuff. Love talking O's and getting to peel back the curtain here on some of the business aspects of it. I know our viewers really appreciate it. So thank you so
Matt,
much.
This took a half hour longer than I expected because I had to talk about this year's team. It's
No, I'm glad to hear it, and it was great questions. Putting me to the fire a little bit is good. These are the kinds of things I need to be hearing to make sure that I'm in tune with what fans are thinking, and really appreciate your perspective as someone who watches a lot of this team and has seen it at its heights, and here where we are now.
Really, ask Craig Albernaz about the Baltimore chop. Is he in favor of it or not in favor of it?
I will. I'll see him in Tampa tomorrow, so
great.
We'll see.
Hey, great to see you, Matt. Great job. I love following you on social. I love reading your stuff. I think I told you before you got on, you and Jacob do a great job with the beat and are must reads if you're a fan. So I'm totally happy to come on.
Awesome. Really appreciate it.
The Maryland Lottery presents Home Run Legends.
Yeah, I know a little bit about leaving the yard, the backyard.
You too can be a home run legend with Fast Play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery. You'll have a chance to win instant cash, tickets to a game, and more. Please play responsibly.
Just want to thank John for stopping by. It was great chatting with a true legend in our industry, someone who has done this for a long time and seen a lot across baseball, and certainly for his Orioles fandom, seen the ups and downs of a franchise that has had a lot of downs over the years, certainly, and currently right now trying to overcome what has been a pretty slow start. We're going to go ahead and wrap there. Want to thank you all so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give the show a 5-star review over on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And give us a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all of the above. Thank you all so much, and have a good one.